Excuse me, sirs. Would you like to buy some candy to keep urban youth off of drugs and gangs?
How much?
3. You hear that? I said 3.
All right. We got it. Now beat it.
Alright. 3 guards ain't too bad.
Don't forget your earplugs this time, Ed. Let's go.
Hold up, my nigga. Hold up.
Go time, nigga. Let's go.
I sent that bitch a smiley face. Bitches love smiley faces. Okay, let's roll.
Nobody move a goddamn muscle.
In The Boondocks, the boundary between satire and uncomfortable truth is often paper thin. Characters are more than caricatures, they're reflections of our world, exaggerated just enough to make us laugh before the sobering realization hits. Among them, one character stands out as both hilariously idiotic and disturbingly emblematic: Ed Wuncler III. Ed isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, in fact he's more like a chainsaw that someone handed to a toddler. Loud, unpredictable, and armed. Yet beneath that chaotic exterior lies something far more dangerous: institutional immunity. He's not a villain in the traditional sense, he's not smart enough for that, but he is protected by wealth, power, race, and legacy. Ed III is the grandson of the most powerful mogul in Woodcrest, Ed Wuncler. Ed III was born on third base and acts like he hit a home run. His antics are cartoonish, but his invincibility is real. Every crime he commits is brushed under the rug. Every violent outburst is dismissed as boys being boys. In Ed, we see the absurdity of America's most dangerous archetype, the privileged fool with power. Voiced by the late great Charlie Murphy, Ed III is a fan favorite not because he's admirable, but because he's a walking contradiction. He's a soldier who doesn't follow orders, a gangster who's terrified of going to jail, a rich kid who acts oppressed, and somehow he's still endearing thanks to Murphy's iconic delivery and comedic timing. But what happens when we stop laughing? What do we see beneath the surface? What does Ed Wuncler III really represent? That's what we're unpacking today. This isn't just an episode breakdown, it's a full psychological and cultural exploration. We will dissect Ed's background, military service, friendships, and family legacy. We'll unpack his relationship with power and immunity. And we'll draw parallels between this fictional character and the very real social dynamics he mirrors. The Boondocks, created by Aaron Magruder, has always used humor to disarm and subversion to educate. Ed Wuncler III might be one of its most potent tools. He's simultaneously a parody and a prophecy. He's what happens when privilege meets instability. His character forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about whiteness, war, masculinity, and capitalism, not through lectures but through absurd comedy that's just close enough to reality to sting. So sit back, grab a drink, or maybe a Kevlar vest, and let's talk about the most reckless man in Woodcrest. Ed Wuncler III made his debut in The Boondocks' first season, quickly stealing scenes with his erratic behavior and loud, chaotic energy. He's introduced not through thoughtful exposition, but through an armed robbery. That tells you everything you need to know. Ed doesn't ask questions, he acts, then panics, then lets his privilege clean up the mess. Aesthetically, Ed's always in camouflage pants and combat boots, clinging to the last piece of identity he understands, his military service. His style isn't just fashion, it's a cry for relevance, a desperate attempt to anchor himself in something meaningful, despite never truly understanding the role he played. His full name, Edward Wuncler III, is itself symbolic. He's the third iteration of a family dynasty built on exploitation. His father is absent from the narrative, making Ed the spiritual and literal heir to Wuncler Sr.'s empire. But instead of being groomed to rule, Ed is left feral and unstable prince playing soldier in a world where he can't be touched. Despite his grandfather's wealth and power, Ed doesn't pursue legitimate influence. Instead, he engages in thrill-seeking chaos, robbing banks, assaulting strangers, and botching heists with his best friend Gin Rummy. These aren't just jokes, they're symptoms of a man-child with no direction and too much leeway. Ed doesn't understand the stakes of his actions because he's never had to face them. Jail, poverty, consequence, these are foreign languages to him, and that's the core of his character. He's dangerous not because he's evil, but because he's insulated, a weaponized idiot with infinite ammo. Throughout the series, Ed is never shown learning or evolving. He remains perpetually stuck in the mindset of a hyper-militarized teenager with something to prove. This arrested development is a conscious choice by the writers. It reinforces the idea that power often stunts growth rather than fostering it. Interestingly, Ed is often portrayed as likable. He's funny, energetic, even charming in short bursts. But that likability is laced with dread. It's a subtle warning about charisma used as a shield, and how society often mistakes loudness for leadership. His presence also disrupts the usual power dynamic in Woodcrest. While characters like Huey fight systemic injustice, and Granddad tries to blend into suburban life, Ed exists outside these struggles entirely. He's an alien force, a walking contradiction whose life is a joke with deadly consequences. In every appearance, Ed III brings chaos, but more importantly, he brings attention. The show uses him to force viewers to reckon with how systems, political, economic, and social, elevate people like Ed while punishing those with far more integrity. To understand Ed Wuncler III is to understand what happens when legacy, violence, and stupidity converge, and then get handed a get-out-of-jail-free card. Ed's military service is the part of his identity he clings to the hardest. It's almost ironic his time in the armed forces is supposed to signify structure, honor, and discipline. But with Ed, it's the opposite. The military didn't tame him, it simply gave him weapons and jargon to justify his madness. He speaks in acronyms, invokes tactical strategies, and name drops Iraq like it's a frat he pledged, but it's all smoke. There's no honor behind his actions, only chaos. When Ed references his time in the military, it's rarely with solemnity or reflection. Instead, it's a tool for self-aggrandizement. He doesn't suffer from guilt or introspection. He brags about violence and uses his supposed training to justify brutality. Whether he truly saw combat or was just stationed at a base peeling potatoes is never confirmed, and that ambiguity itself is telling. The Boondocks leaves it vague on purpose, because Ed's trauma isn't real, but his performance of trauma is. His military persona is a costume, one that allows him to cosplay as a hardened soldier while conveniently avoiding accountability. This is a sharp critique of how post-9/11 media and some political factions glorified veterans to the point that questioning them became taboo. Ed exploits that cultural reverence for soldiers, twisting it into an excuse to act without consequence. He turns duty into delusion. In this light, Ed functions almost like a parody of America's own military-industrial complex, bloated, confused, and dangerous in all the wrong ways. He doesn't understand diplomacy or restraint, just force. His first response to any situation is violence. He's a soldier without a war looking for enemies in a town where no one asked for a battle. It's funny at first until you realize there are real people like this. The show uses Ed's military identity to mock how easily patriotism can be co-opted and weaponized. When Ed yells things like "mission accomplished" after holding someone at gunpoint, it's not just a punchline, it's a mirror held up to a country that too often celebrates aggression as victory. Ed believes he's the hero of every scene he's in, even when he's clearly the villain, and because no one around him says otherwise, he remains trapped in that delusion. What makes Ed even more dangerous is that he doesn't understand fear, not because he's brave, but because he's never been truly vulnerable. His privilege has armored him far more than his flak vest ever did. Whether it's robbing a liquor store or pointing a rifle at an innocent person, Ed acts like there will be no repercussions, and for him there never are. That's where his true psychopathy lies, not in what he does, but in what he thinks he can get away with, which in Woodcrest is basically everything. Psychologically, Ed exhibits classic traits of antisocial personality disorder: impulsivity, aggression, lack of remorse, and a shallow understanding of relationships. But the show stops short of medicalizing his behavior. Instead, it shows that systems, not just brains, can produce people like Ed. When you grow up rich, male, white, and adored for nothing but your last name, you start to believe the world owes you obedience. Ed isn't sick, he's entitled. That sense of entitlement manifests in disturbing ways. In one episode, he attempts to rob a fast food restaurant because he's simply bored. There's no grand plan, no need for money, no enemy to fight. Just the thrill of domination. He wants to feel powerful, not because he earned it, but because power has always been handed to him like a toy. He plays war the way other kids play Call of Duty. The difference is Ed has real bullets. His friendship with Gin Rummy also reinforces this faux military identity. Together they form a delusional duo, obsessed with tactical missions, quoting political speeches, and referencing real-world conflicts in ways that make no sense. They talk like they're in a Tom Clancy novel, but operate like amateurs. It's a biting satire of how post-9/11 America produced not just soldiers, but civilian copycats who romanticize war without understanding it. Ultimately, Ed Wuncler III isn't a soldier in the traditional sense. He's a parody of what happens when violence is normalized and valor is sold like a brand. He's not suffering from PTSD, he's suffering from American exceptionalism. He believes his actions are always justified because he's American, he's a vet, and he's a Wuncler. And if the world disagrees, well, he's got an assault rifle and nothing to lose. One of the central themes in the Boondocks is how power and wealth often insulate the worst people from the consequences of their actions, and Ed Wuncler III is the epitome of that reality. His entire existence is a masterclass in inherited privilege, and it's this privilege that allows him to do whatever he wants without ever facing any real repercussions. Ed didn't earn his wealth, nor did he earn his power. His fortune is a gift from his grandfather, Ed Wuncler Sr., who controls nearly every aspect of Woodcrest's local economy. This inherited wealth allows Ed to act without fear of consequence, whether he's robbing a bank, threatening a business owner, or harassing his own friends. It's not his intelligence or talent that gives him power, it's his name. Ed doesn't just walk into rooms with privilege, he storms in like a sledgehammer, breaking down barriers because he's never learned the meaning of the word no. Ed lives in an entirely different universe, one where laws, morality, and even basic human decency are just obstacles to be ignored or manipulated. What makes Ed's privilege so insidious is that it's invisible to him. He doesn't see himself as privileged, he sees himself as a gangster, a rebel, someone who operates outside the rules. But all his rebellion is made possible by his family's wealth and status. He's never had to earn his place in society, and yet he acts like he's a self-made man. His entire identity is wrapped up in the idea that he can break any law, do anything immoral, and get away with it because he was born on third base and thinks he hit a home run. In a way, Ed's ignorance of his privilege makes him a more dangerous figure. He's not malicious in the traditional sense, he's oblivious. He's a walking example of how wealth can blind people to the realities of the world around them. He doesn't recognize the structural forces that protect him, he just assumes he's special. And because those around him let him continue without challenge, he believes it's not just his right, but his destiny to act with impunity. This dynamic plays out in almost every episode Ed appears in. He'll commit a violent act, make a ludicrous decision, or throw an irresponsible tantrum, but the consequences are never lasting. His grandfather will bail him out, his wealth will smooth over any problems, and the cycle continues. Even when Ed is caught in the act, whether it's in a bank robbery or a street brawl, his privilege ensures that he'll walk free without so much as a slap on the wrist. It's a direct commentary on how the system works for those with power and influence, people like Ed Wuncler III. It's also worth noting how Ed's privilege isn't just economic, it's racial. While the Boondocks often critiques how Black Americans are disenfranchised, Ed represents a type of privilege that comes with being wealthy and white. The show makes it clear that his wealth shields him not only from legal consequences, but also from social repercussions. In his mind, his skin color and his family's legacy give him the right to trample on anyone beneath him, black or white. In fact, he's often more dangerous to his own community because of this entitlement, thinking he can do whatever he wants and never face any form of real backlash. The question of why Ed's behavior is tolerated is as much a critique of societal norms as it is of his character. Why is it that Ed can waltz into a bank with a gun and leave without consequence, while other characters like the marginalized black residents of Woodcrest would be thrown into jail at the slightest provocation? The show isn't shy about calling out this racial and class-based double standard. Ed's behavior is tolerated because he's seen as a product of a legacy, one that insulates him from the harshness of reality.
Good. Glad you made it, Ed. Oh my God, look at their pants!
Hold your forked tongue, you crack-a-devil, you crack-a-devil. What's good, nigga? What's good? Where the hell's at? Church, nigga! Church!
That's not proper English. Robert, I'm disappointed in you. I thought you belonged here. I thought you were refined. But I'm foreclosing on your home, and I'm reporting you to all the other new white people. Get out of my sight.
Glad you made it, Robert. This is my grandson, Ed the Third.
How are you? What's up, y'all? What's good?
So I understand you just got back from Iraq.
For real? Yo, what's it like?
What's it like? What I'm supposed to say to that? It was cool. There was bitches. Okay, there was bitches, but a lot of them had, they was covered up in them curtains and stuff they be wearing. But I digress. It was war. It was war, basically. War. You know what that's like? Motherfuckers be like shooting. Bombs blowing up. And, the shit scared me. It scared the shit out of me. Matter of fact, I shit on myself over a dozen times and ran out of toilet paper after the second time. So you know what that meant, right? I had to use the thumb, man. It was kind of nasty. But, The good thing about it was they stopped taking me out on patrol because my name became Stink Bomb. You know what I'm saying? They said, you know, I was giving away our position because of the shit smell. That was fine with me, you know what I'm saying? They wanted to leave me back. And I was like, well, fuck y'all. Y'all go ahead on, because I don't need y'all anyway. I'm rich, bitch. The fuck y'all looking at?
And while Ed's character is often played for laughs, his actions are rooted in a deeper, darker truth. There's a certain segment of society that can operate above the law simply because they hold the right cards. Ed is a perfect embodiment of this, and in a world that too often values status over substance, his reckless actions are never fully accounted for, because those who have the power to hold him accountable have a vested interest in letting him continue unchecked. In the end, Ed Wuncler III is more than just a reckless, privileged fool. He is a representation of how systems of power work to protect the few at the expense of the many. He's a living, breathing metaphor for the kind of privilege that sees itself as above reproach, and as the Boondocks shows us, that privilege often leads to destruction, not just for those in power, but for everyone who gets caught in their wake. One of the most consistent comedic duos in the Boondocks is Ed Wuncler III and his best friend Gin Rummy. On the surface, they seem like a pair of bumbling criminals who are too stupid to pull off any serious schemes, but beneath the slapstick humor lies a deeper commentary about privileged masculinity and the relationships that are formed in a world of excess and recklessness. Gin Rummy is the more grounded of the two, but only by comparison. He's cynical, pragmatic, and generally more aware of the world around him than Ed, though that's not saying much. Rummy is less about the military fantasy that Ed clings to, and more about finding the quickest way to profit, often through underhanded means. Together they form a dynamic that's less about ambition and more about satisfying their individual egos in the voids within them. Despite their differences, Gin and Ed share one core trait: they are both trying to escape their circumstances, albeit in completely different ways. For Ed, the military persona and violent outbursts are an attempt to reclaim power he was never really denied. For Gin, his criminal behavior is a means of survival in a world where he never quite fit in. Together they act as a microcosm for the absurdity of chasing power for its own sake. Ed's friendship with Gin, while comedic, also exposes his deep insecurity. While Ed behaves like a reckless, untouchable force, his reliance on Jin's guidance shows just how much he needs validation. Gin is the one who keeps Ed grounded, though barely. His cynicism and pragmatic outlook sometimes push Ed into more dangerous scenarios. But without Jin's influence, Ed would likely descend into complete chaos, proving how weak Ed truly is underneath his bluster. The duo's friendship is a tragic one. On one hand, they're both products of their environment, rich, powerful, and socially untouchable. On the other hand, they are both empty shells, unable to connect meaningfully with anyone outside their toxic, self-absorbed bubble. Their criminal endeavors are not motivated by any sense of duty or ideology. Instead, they are driven by a childish desire for fun and domination. The duo doesn't rob banks or hold people hostage because they need money. They do it because they want the thrill of feeling powerful. What makes their dynamic so interesting is the way it comments on the fragility of masculinity, especially in a world where their privileged position provides an artificial sense of security. Ed, for all his antics, is afraid of genuine consequences, especially jail. He may talk big about being a tough guy, but deep down he's a coward. Gin Rummy, on the other hand, accepts the reality of his actions. While neither of them is a hero, Gin Rummy is at least somewhat aware of the stakes of their criminal lifestyle, but his awareness doesn't stop him from continuing to enable Ed's delusions.
Man, I don't get that.
Get what?
That texting shit.
And what's wrong with texting?
You mean aside from the fact that it's the stupidest fucking thing in the world? I mean, why would anyone in their right mind spend 15 minutes trying to type some shit they could have called and said in 5 seconds? Plus, it involves typing with your thumbs, which I just don't approve of. Shit. I don't know about you, but I don't have time to read nothing that a motherfucker type with his thumbs. Fun fact, nothing typed by someone's thumbs has ever been important. It's all just nigga technology anyway.
What you call it?
Nigga technology. Technology for nigga. When you don't start tripping and shit, call me a racist, because I don't mean nigga in a disrespectful way. I mean it as a general term for ignorant motherfucker. Anybody of any race can be an ignorant motherfucker.
Shit, I be texting my ass off. Shit, bitches like texting. I be texting them all the time. Matter of fact, I also be texting my weed man too, because you know he don't like to be on the phone, so I text him.
Case in point. So basically, nigga technology is anything that doesn't plug into a printer. Does that plug into a printer?
No.
Know why? Because niggas never have anything to print.
Excuse me, sirs. Would you like to buy some candy to keep urban youth off of drugs and gangs?
How much?
3. You hear that? I said 3.
All right. We got it. Now beat it.
All right. 3 guards ain't too bad.
Don't forget your earplugs this time, Ed.
Let's go.
Hold up, my nigga. Hold up.
Go time, nigga. Let's go.
I sent that bitch a smiley face. Bitches love smiley faces. Okay, let's roll.
Nobody move a goddamn muscle. You best start acting like you're a mannequin or something. Like you want to stand in the way. Everybody get on the ground, now! Now! Nobody make a goddamn sound! Hurry up, now, I ain't got all day. Move it! I said let's go!
Do you want us to take you to the safe?
Oh, right, yeah, the safe, yeah.
Move it!
A soldier drop his weapon, shoot him, and telling him to get to stepping. Obviously, became the portion of his fortune. Sounds to me like that old robbery extortion.
Hurry up! Come on!
You can't reform him.
22 minutes.
We suck. We fucking suck, man. And I forgot to ask for the money again. I always forget to ask for the money.
I don't think 22 minutes is so bad.
Not so bad. That's a whole episode of Seinfeld. It takes us a whole episode of Seinfeld to rob a bank.
Stop being a perfectionist.
And we both know if your grandfather didn't own this bank, we'd never have gotten away with this shit.
Shut up, Riley. Rummy, you the man.
Excuse me, but will you be needing anything else from me today, Mr. Wuncler, sir?
Now you could go on and take the bags back in.
Thank you, sir. And for what it's worth, I thought you all did very well.
See? An unbiased opinion.
So you honestly think that was a well-executed robbery?
Well, I sure do.
And you wouldn't just be saying that because I got a loaded gun pointing at you, would you? Because we need honest feedback. For real.
No, sir, I would not.
That's bullshit. We fucking suck, man.
In many ways, Gin Rummy is the tragic figure in this dynamic. He's more aware of the limitations of their lives, but still remains complicit in perpetuating the chaos Ed thrives in. There's an element of self-loathing in Rummy's actions, a recognition that he's trapped in the same cycle of excess and delusion that defines Ed. It's a tragic commentary on how many people, particularly those who come from backgrounds of privilege and entitlement, get stuck in toxic cycles that prevent them from achieving anything meaningful in their lives. Their relationship also highlights one of the Boondocks' major themes, the absurdity of unearned power. Ed and Gin Rummy are both products of a system that rewards the privileged for simply existing, without regard to their actions or character. They have no need to be strategic, calculated, or responsible because their wealth and status give them a free pass to act as recklessly as they want. In this context, their criminal activities, while a source of dark humor, are a microcosm for a larger cultural problem, the normalization of toxic masculinity and wealth-driven entitlement. Ed and Gin Rummy's partnership is ultimately one of mutual exploitation. Ed exploits Rummy's greater worldliness, while Rummy exploits Ed's privilege. It's a relationship built on selfishness and a lack of real connection. Despite their shared misadventures, there's no genuine friendship between them. Instead, they serve as mirrors of one another's insecurities and desires. They aren't true partners in crime, they are just two men trapped in a world they don't understand but are still determined to control.
I'm just saying we can do better. We not realizing our potential.
This is some bullshit. The game cheating.
Nigga, the game ain't cheating.
Start the game over.
Why you always gotta cheat when you lose, Ed?
Let him have it. Not wise to upset a Wuncler.
Restart the game now.
And Oprah fans, get ready. The Queen of Daytime Talk will be in the Woodcrest area tomorrow for a book signing before taping her show the following evening. Hundreds of Oprah faithfuls have been camping out for days in anticipation.
I just think she is the most wonderful spirit. I just don't know what I would do without her.
Oh, snap! What if we kidnap Oprah?
And do what?
Control of Oprah is control over women.
Wait, I see where you're going. See, 'cause like, control over women is control over bitches.
Oprah Winfrey taps directly into the emotions, beliefs, buying habits, and summer reading patterns of billions of women all over the world. Oprah Winfrey has the power to lay waste an entire industry with a mere utterance. She's a completely invincible, unstoppable force of nature, and with her under our control, nobody will be able to stop us.
Who's trying to stop you? Nobody ever tries to stop you.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Hey, just because we don't know anyone trying to stop us don't mean ain't nobody out there trying to stop us. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence.
Seems to me like everyone just lets y'all do whatever you want. That's why y'all always get away.
We get away because I'm a criminal mastermind.
Whatever, nigga.
Get ready. We get it at the bookstore. We gonna need some video surveillance.
And we gonna need advanced communication. Two-way pages for everybody.
Yeah! Whatever you guys are planning, you're not getting away with it. Nobody can stop Ed and Rummy. Maybe not. But if I catch you with him, I'm gonna take you down. Unless I take you down first. Unless I take you down first. Is that the best you can do? Shut up, punk.
I saw a glimpse of her.
Okay, there's 2 guards by the front door. Another on the east wall.
Well, excuse me for being into computers and shit, alright?
First of all, motherfucker, just because you put a two-way page in the middle of your desk, don't make it a computer. It's a two-way pager, all right?
Okay, then what's the difference?
The difference is the computer is something that does actual work. Nigga technology don't do much more than let dumb niggas talk to other dumb niggas about dumb nigga shit.
She even smells good.
Hey, I see Oprah. Okay, her security just left her alone. Go!
Let's roll.
How do hold heat and preach non-violence? Give out stuck speech, come on, silence. On one starry night, I saw the light. Heard a voice that sound like Barry White said, show me right.
Get down! Everybody get down now!
Flag height in a firefight during no time with no coat.
Where's Oprah?
Well, where's she at?
Where's Oprah? Where's Oprah? Huh? bitch!
So tell me what I've been doing. Tell me where Oprah is on the count of 3, I'm gonna kill the oldest bitch up in here.
That's real fucked up, Agnes. Found me. No! Help me!
Body Snatcher 3 to Body Snatcher 2. Where are you?
We're in the bookstore. We're about to extract the package.
What bookstore?
The Borders next to Starbucks.
No, it's the Barnes and Nobles next to the Coffee Bean.
Yeah, bitch!
Rummy, wait! That's not Oprah! Hello? Damn it!
Body Snatcher 2, Body Snatcher 3, you read me? Hey, kick me again. Oh, goddamn it. I'm gonna bite your ass.
Dear Ed, that is not Oprah. Riley. Yo, Rummy. Riley said that ain't Oprah.
What? Well, who the hell is it? Oh, goddamn it.
It's, Maya Angelou.
Maya and I rise, Angelou?
was the scene today at the Woodcrest Borders bookstore where two unknown assailants kidnapped Maya Angelou during a book signing.
It was all Rummy's fault.
Ed ran into the wrong store. I was following Ed.
How was I supposed to know which bookstore to go into? They look exactly the same, and they both got books.
There was a giant crowd of people outside of one.
That don't mean Oprah was in there.
There was a large sign outside that said, "Welcome Oprah." Y'all lucky Ed's grandfather owns a cop.
Just what are you trying to imply? Look, we escaped capture because of planning, teamwork, and execution.
This officer wanted to see you, Mr. Wuncler, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Wuncler. I just, well, you dropped this today at the bookstore during the, the unpleasant, Thank you, Mr. Wuncler, sir. Thank you. I'm so sorry to disturb you. I hope you're not upset with me.
Why don't we just get Oprah tomorrow?
Anybody know where they taping the show?
Maybe we could try and find out?
I'm down with that.
Oh, this is beautiful. It's like we back again. Hey, man, look, I'm sorry. Sometimes I just let my emotions get the best of me.
No, I understand. You're passionate about what you're doing. I just wish you'd be a little more sensitive to my feelings.
It was my fault, man.
No. It was my fault for grabbing the poet triumvirate, whatever her name, Maya.
Y'all niggas are gay.
Hey, why y'all leave me out here? One of y'all motherfuckers better come out here and get me, I know that. Or you will be living in a haunted house tonight.
Swim, bitch! Now, this is the studio where they be taping the show. What we need to worry about is Oprah's personal security team.
Do we have any intel on that?
Any what?
Intel. Intelligence, nigga, keep up. The bookstore security footage.
Help!
Whoa, Bushido Brown. Oh, damn, I was afraid of this.
Who's Bushido Brown?
A bona fide bad motherfucker, that's who. You remember when Oprah made them comments about the beef industry?
No.
Okay, well, a few years back, Oprah said some shit on her show about beef, mad cow disease or some shit. Anyway, the beef industry didn't exactly find that shit amusing. They thought they would send a crew of armed Texans to go teach Oprah a lesson. Ex-Marines, ex-Texas Rangers, Rogues, that kind of shit. But Oprah hired Bushido Brown as her personal bodyguard.
Come on, JJ!
Apparently, only one dude was able to actually lay a hand on Oprah's office door. They say Bushido Brown kept that hand.
I think I just shit myself.
No. We can't just stroll up in there. Bushido Brown is there. We need a plan. And, go change your pants.
The absurdity of their partnership is perfectly encapsulated in their relationship dynamics. While they fumble through their ridiculous plans, each man is just as lost as the other. Their escapades are always short-lived and end in failure, yet they keep pushing forward in search of validation and excitement. It's this cycle of failure and reinvention that makes their friendship so tragic and so darkly humorous. They might be rich, they might have power, but they're still two men fumbling through life pretending to be something they're not. The Wuncler family in the Boondocks is a perfect microcosm of America's oldest power structures, privilege, legacy, and unchecked wealth. At the top of this dynasty stands Ed Wuncler Sr., a figure whose influence is so vast that it permeates every aspect of Woodcrest's economy. His grandson Ed Wuncler III is both a product and a grotesque reflection of the family's legacy. While Ed III is the most visible of the Wuncler, his family's influence runs deeper, making his absurdities less comical and more symptomatic of a broader systemic issue. Ed Wuncler Sr. represents the archetype of corporate greed, oligarchic power, and privilege. As a mogul, he controls Woodcrest's wealth and uses it to maintain a stranglehold over the town's political, economic, and social spheres. His empire is built on exploitation, and it's clear that the Wuncler family has always been insulated from the consequences of their actions. The family legacy is not one of benevolence, but of opportunism and dominance. It's important to note that Ed Wuncler III is the direct beneficiary of this legacy. His antics, while seemingly inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, are not without context. Ed's behavior isn't just a byproduct of his own ignorance or impulsiveness, it's the result of a multi-generational system that has consistently shielded his family from accountability. This lack of consequences, paired with an overwhelming sense of entitlement, creates a dangerous combination that enables Ed's reckless behavior. Ed's relationship with his grandfather is telling. Though Ed Sr. is rarely seen in the show, his presence looms large. Ed Sr. embodies the kind of old money ruthlessness that built much of America's wealth, particularly during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It's no coincidence that Ed Sr.'s business practices are shady, often involving exploitation, corruption, and underhanded dealings. He is the epitome of the capitalist system that the Boondocks critique so fiercely, a system that rewards those who already have everything, while the rest are left to fend for themselves. In contrast, Ed Wuncler III is a literal child in a grown man's body. His lack of personal responsibility, combined with his deeply ingrained sense of superiority, turns him into a walking time bomb. The Wuncler family's wealth has allowed him to avoid growing up, to avoid the lessons that would have otherwise shaped him into a responsible adult. His childish antics are enabled by the family legacy, which never forced him to mature or confront the consequences of his actions. This generational disconnect between Ed III and Ed Sr. is a central point in the Boondocks' exploration of wealth and power. Ed Sr. is a self-made man. His empire is a result of his ambition, cunning, and ruthlessness. Ed III, on the other hand, has inherited all of this, but lacks the work ethic or understanding to maintain it. He is not the architect of his own success, he is simply a beneficiary. This dynamic showcases the emptiness of inherited wealth and how it perpetuates cycles of dysfunction. Ed III's own identity is deeply tied to this legacy, even if he doesn't understand it. His obsession with power, control, and violence stems from the notion that he is the rightful heir to the Wuncler Empire. But unlike his grandfather, who built his empire through calculated actions, Ed III simply inherits it and uses it as an excuse to act without any forethought. His reckless decisions are symptomatic of a larger societal issue, the privileged who do not need to earn their success and therefore never truly appreciate it. One of the most poignant moments in the show comes when Ed III talks about his grandfather's influence. While he idolizes Ed Sr., there's an underlying lack of understanding about what that power truly represents. To Ed, his grandfather is a symbol of authority, but not of the work or sacrifices that come with building and maintaining such power. He doesn't see the legacy of exploitation and ruthlessness, he sees the wealth, the status, and the ability to act without consequences, and it is this shallow interpretation of legacy that defines his actions throughout the series. The Wuncler family's influence also highlights a crucial point about the nature of privilege. Ed III is not just a product of his grandfather's wealth, he is a direct result of the values and systems that uphold that wealth. His behavior isn't just personal failure, it's a consequence of the very system that has allowed his family to thrive for generations. This is where the Boondocks hits hardest. It's not just about one man's mistakes, but about the larger structures that allow such mistakes to be overlooked and even rewarded. Ed Wuncler III may not understand the depth of his family's legacy, but the Boondocks makes it clear that the Wuncler family represents something larger than just one reckless individual. They symbolize the systemic perpetuation of privilege, where power, wealth, and legacy are handed down with no regard for merit or responsibility. Ed may be a fool, but his foolishness is the product of a system that has long enabled people like him to wreak havoc without ever facing the consequences of their actions. At first glance, Ed is the epitome of a comedic character. He's reckless, absurd, and consistently gets into ridiculous situations, all while maintaining a smug sense of superiority. However, the Boondocks cleverly uses his buffoonery to reflect deeper societal issues, and in doing so, Ed becomes a tragicomic hero in his own right. He is both a figure of ridicule and a tragic embodiment of how unchecked privilege, entitlement, and violence are normalized in modern society. Ed Wuncler III's journey throughout the Boondocks can be seen as a dark parody of the classic tragic hero archetype. Unlike traditional tragic heroes who experience a downfall because of a fatal flaw, Ed's downfall is less about a single flaw and more about an accumulation of societal privileges that blind him to his own failings. He's a tragic figure, not because he suffers from personal weakness, but because he's insulated from suffering by his wealth, status, and family legacy.
Pull up your pants, you little ghetto hooligan.
Damn, is that who I think it is?
This ain't Oprah, it's Bill Cosby.
I guess we were supposed to take a left.
What's the matter with you? You should be ashamed of yourself, kicking in the doors with the big boots and the guns.
Damn, Rummy, I'm sick of playing with y'all. Y'all two are pathetic.
Hey, in Iraq, we was in special ops.
Y'all niggas should have been in the Special Olympics. I'm going home.
Oh, come on, man. Look, we'll kidnap Bill Cosby. It'll still be fun.
Yeah, man, it's only 4 o'clock. Come on, we can write the ransom note together.
I don't think so, guys. I gotta get home for dinner.
Don't listen to him. He's just a hater. You a good planner. Look, you about to kidnap Bill Cosby. How many motherfuckers can say that they did some shit like that, huh? You gotta start looking at the bright side.
Yeah, show you right. And I am a pretty good planner, huh?
And y'all niggas are gay. Ed and Rummy kidnapped Bill Cosby. But he was really annoying, so they returned him to the studio 15 minutes later. As usual, nobody even thought about stopping them.
The fuck y'all looking at?
What makes Ed's character so interesting is how the Boondocks blends farce and tragedy. His actions are often absurd, but they are not without consequence. In a show that deals with themes of race power and the social order, Ed's stupidity is not just a punchline. It's a reflection of how privilege often allows people to act without fear of real repercussions. Ed's arrogance and lack of self-awareness make him a clown, but the world he inhabits encourages his behavior, turning him into a figure of both mockery and menace. One of the key aspects of Ed's tragicomic nature is his complete inability to understand the world around him. He's not entirely evil, he's simply a product of his environment, one that has never required him to grow up or face the consequences of his actions. In many ways, this makes Ed a tragic figure. He is the child who never matured, the man who never learned empathy or responsibility. His wealth and privilege have shielded him from any sense of accountability, leaving him to wander through life with a misguided sense of self-importance. The tragedy lies in Ed's failure to evolve. While other characters like Huey and Granddad struggle and fight against the oppressive systems that keep them down, Ed never has to confront these struggles. He exists in a perpetual state of adolescence, never having to work for anything, never having to face failure. This stunted development makes him both a victim of his own privilege and a reflection of the deeper systemic issues at play. His journey is not one of growth, but of stagnation. In a way, Ed's behavior reflects a larger societal issue, the inability of the powerful to recognize their own flaws. Ed's wealth, power, and family legacy have allowed him to live in a bubble where consequences are distant and often non-existent. This is a critique of how people in positions of privilege are often unaware of their impact on others and how they are protected from the realities that those less fortunate face every day. Ed's inability to see himself as part of a greater society makes him tragic, as he is doomed to repeat the same mistakes without ever truly understanding why they matter. While Ed may be a figure of fun and laughter, his actions are indicative of deeper issues that the Boondocks tackles throughout its run. His antics are a commentary on how people with power, whether through wealth, race, or status, often get a free pass in society. Ed's ignorance and recklessness are normalized because they are seen as part of the privilege he was born into. His actions may be ridiculous, but the systems that enable him make them seem less so. The show uses Ed's comedic moments to highlight the absurdity of a system that allows figures like him to exist without consequence. Ed Wuncler III's role in the show is a reminder that not all tragedies are grand or overt. Sometimes the most tragic figures are the ones who never have to experience hardship, the ones who live in a constant state of entitlement without ever being forced to change. Ed is the product of a world that shields him from reality, allowing him to remain perpetually immature, selfish, and oblivious. The true tragedy of Ed's character is that he will never know the lessons that come from struggle and failure. He will remain stuck in his own delusions forever. Ultimately, Ed's status as a tragicomic hero speaks to a broader critique of modern society. The Boondocks doesn't just mock Ed for his stupidity, it uses his character to expose the dangers of unchecked privilege. In many ways, Ed is a figure of pure consequence-free existence, someone who can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, without ever feeling the weight of his actions. His tragicomedy is that, despite all of this power, he is the most pitiful character on the show, living in a self-created prison of delusion and privilege, never realizing that his actions have no meaning beyond his own distorted sense of grandeur. Through Ed Wuncler III, the Boondocks shows that privilege isn't just a social advantage, it's a trap. It's a trap that prevents growth, awareness, and empathy. It is a trap that, in its own way, turns those who benefit from it into the most tragic figures of all. Ed is a clown, yes, but he's also a sad reflection of how privilege perpetuates its own ignorance, leaving those who hold it to stumble through life without ever confronting the consequences of their actions. Throughout the Boondocks, Ed Wuncler III's reckless actions, privileged status, and lack of accountability set the stage for his inevitable downfall. However, much like the tragicomic nature of his character, his downfall is not the grand dramatic crash one might expect. Instead, it's a slow, unremarkable unraveling that highlights just how much of a product of his environment he truly is. Ed's downfall is not a single event, but a culmination of the ignorance, arrogance, and unchecked privilege that have defined his existence. Ed's repeated failures to adapt, learn, or grow are crucial to understanding his eventual downfall. In a society that rewards ignorance and privilege, Ed never learns the most basic lessons of life: how to deal with consequences, how to grow as a person, and how to understand the ramifications of his actions. His wealth and family legacy have protected him for so long that when the real world eventually catches up with him, he is utterly unprepared. Part of Ed's downfall is rooted in his inability to forge meaningful relationships with anyone. His friendship with Gin Rummy, while it provides a semblance of camaraderie, is ultimately hollow. Both characters are so entrenched in their own delusions and self-interest that their partnership is doomed from the start. Gin Rummy may be a cynical opportunist, but even he eventually grows tired of Ed's antics. Without any true emotional connections to anchor him, Ed is left to flounder, isolated in his wealth and privilege. This emotional isolation, coupled with his lack of growth, accelerates his decline into irrelevance. In many ways, Ed's downfall mirrors the eventual collapse of the structures that sustain him. As the world around him begins to shift, Ed fails to recognize that the world doesn't revolve around him. The inevitability of societal change, whether it's shifts in the economy, changes in political power, or new generations rising up, eventually erodes the power and influence of families like the Wunclers. Ed, blind to these changes, continues to play his childish games, unaware that the world has long since moved on from the antiquated systems of power that once protected him. The most poignant aspect of Ed's downfall is that it's not a fall from grace, it's a fall from the apathy that defined his life. For much of the series, Ed's actions have no real consequences, and this absence of accountability is what allows him to continue his reckless behavior. However, as the Wuncler family's control begins to fade, and as Ed's sense of invulnerability is slowly stripped away, he is confronted with a reality that he is ill-equipped to handle. His inevitable decline isn't a result of some tragic flaw or moment of introspection, but rather the natural consequence of living in a world where privilege and irresponsibility are no longer enough to shield him from reality. Ed Wuncler III's downfall is a commentary on the inevitable decay of systems built on privilege and entitlement. In a world where the powerful are protected by their wealth and legacy, there comes a time when that power no longer guarantees protection. Ed's downfall represents the collapse of the old guard, the realization that the systems that once propped up characters like him are no longer sustainable. His fall is not spectacular, but rather quietly devastating, as he loses the protection of his family legacy and realizes that his actions have consequences. He is left to face a world that no longer has space for his immaturity and unchecked arrogance. Ed Wuncler III, despite being a fictional character in a satirical animated series, embodies a deeper societal commentary that extends far beyond his comedic antics. His character is a representation of the unchecked power, privilege, and entitlement that dominate many societal structures, particularly in relation to wealth, race, and the perpetuation of generational inequalities. In examining Ed's legacy, we can see how the Boondocks uses his character to critique broader issues within society, especially the ways in which privilege is both an advantage and a trap. One of the most significant aspects of Ed Wuncler III's legacy is how he represents the toxic effects of inherited wealth and privilege. As a member of the Wuncler family, Ed is a direct beneficiary of systems that reward the rich for simply existing. He does not earn his wealth, nor does he need to. His life is an illustration of how privilege perpetuates itself regardless of merit. The family legacy is not one of hard work, ingenuity, or merit, it's one of exploitation, greed, and manipulation. In this sense, Ed is less an individual and more a symbol of a broader issue in society, the way in which the rich and powerful often inherit their status without ever having to earn it. Ed's character exposes how entitlement, when unchallenged, can manifest in disturbing ways. His reckless actions, lack of self-awareness, and childish behavior are the result of never having been held accountable for anything in his life. Ed represents the privileged class that views the world as their playground, where they can do whatever they want without fear of repercussions. This privilege blinds him to the struggles of others, making him unable to empathize with those who do not have the same advantages. His lack of accountability and self-awareness is a direct result of the world he has been raised in, a world that shields him from any real consequences. The central critique of Ed's character is that he is not an anomaly, but a product of the system he represents. Ed Wuncler III is not just a foolish man, he is a symbol of the larger societal issue of privilege. His entitlement, self-absorption, and recklessness reflect the ways in which power structures allow certain individuals to act without fear of consequence. This commentary is particularly relevant when considering how the wealthy elite often avoid the consequences of their actions, whether through legal loopholes, financial resources, or societal protection. Ed Wuncler III's legacy is, in many ways, a mirror to the reality faced by many individuals born into privilege in the real world. Furthermore, Ed's relationship with his family highlights the way in which generational privilege functions. While Ed Sr. may be a more calculating and manipulative figure, Ed III is the result of a system that no longer requires him to learn the lessons that his grandfather did. Ed's entitlement stems from a long history of Wuncler, who have benefited from inherited power, leading him to believe that he is entitled to whatever he desires without question. This lack of generational wisdom is crucial in understanding why Ed remains trapped in his childish behavior. The Wuncler legacy, instead of teaching Ed the value of responsibility or hard work, simply reinforces his misguided sense of superiority. Ed Wuncler III's impact on the show is not just comedic, it serves as a critique of how systems of power and privilege shape individuals. His behavior may seem farcical, but the implications of his actions are not. Ed's escapades, whether they involve criminal activities, self-destructive tendencies, or the exploitation of others, are all enabled by the same systems that allow the wealthy to avoid accountability. The Boondocks uses Ed's character as a stark reminder of how privilege can create a dangerous disconnect between the powerful and the powerless, perpetuating a cycle of ignorance and detachment from reality. On a deeper level, Ed's character also speaks to the broader issue of racial dynamics in America. While Ed himself is a white character, his portrayal in the context of the Boondocks highlights the intersections of race and class. In a show that frequently explores the experiences of Black Americans, Ed serves as a foil to characters like Huey, who fight against the systems that oppress them. While Huey's activism and awareness are grounded in his understanding of systemic racism and inequality, Ed's privileged position allows him to remain ignorant of these issues. This contrast between Ed and Huey serves as a stark reminder of how race and class intersect to shape the experiences of individuals in society. The juxtaposition of Ed Wuncler III with other characters in the Boondocks reinforces the idea that privilege not only distorts individual behavior, but also perpetuates larger societal inequalities. While characters like Granddad and Huey work hard to navigate a world that often ignores or devalues them, Ed Wuncler III skates by with little effort, untouched by the struggles that those around him face. His character exposes the absurdity of a system that allows the privileged to prosper with little regard for the people they trample on along the way. In this sense, Ed's legacy is a reflection of the broader inequalities that exist in society. Despite the humor and absurdity surrounding his character, Ed Wuncler III's legacy ultimately serves as a sobering reminder of how systems of power, privilege, and entitlement shape the world. His life is an example of how wealth and privilege can insulate individuals from the realities faced by those less fortunate. Ed is a reflection of the worst aspects of privilege, how it fosters ignorance, detachment, and a lack of empathy for others. The Boondocks uses his character to critique not just one individual, but the entire system that allows characters like Ed to exist and thrive, unchallenged by the consequences of their actions. In conclusion, Ed Wuncler III is a deeply flawed character whose legacy goes far beyond his absurd behavior. His character serves as a critique of generational privilege, unchecked power, and the absurdity of a system that rewards those who already have everything. While he may be a comedic figure on the surface, Ed represents something much darker, a microcosm of the larger issues of race, class, and entitlement that persist in society. His story is not just a reflection of a single individual's flaws, but a commentary on how privilege distorts our perceptions of power, responsibility, and the world around us. Ed Wuncler III may have started as a comic relief character within the Boondocks, but over time he has grown into a symbol that resonates deeply within both the context of the show and the larger cultural landscape. His character, while often a source of absurd humor and exaggerated antics, carries significant weight in the show's broader themes of race, power, privilege, and generational legacy. In this way, Ed's impact extends far beyond the confines of the show itself, influencing discussions about social inequality and the comedic critique of societal structures in popular culture.
Oh, come on, Ed. You got to help me out.
Kidnapping? I don't know, Rowdy. My grandpa's be tripping, man. Why don't we, try something different like diplomacy for a change?
Man, just snatch him up, and if the nigga don't have a chain on him, get to regulating him and make him tell you where it at.
Now, what I want you to do is think. Just think. These two grapes is your two little itty-bitty kitty testicles. Where is the chain?
I don't know. I swear to God.
Don't swear to God. I talk to God all the time, and God happens to be the one that told me to torture your ass, you lying, stealing motherfucker. You gonna tell me where that chain is? I know that.
Ed, can I talk to you outside? Please?
Look at my face. Look at it. I'm gonna crush your little kitty penis with this hammer when I get back if you don't tell me where that chain is at.
No, Ed. That's the wrong kid, Ed. I told you to grab Butch Magnus, 5'4", 130 pounds.
Well, how was I supposed to know that was the wrong kid?
I gave you a picture, man. How hard is it to grab the right kid, Ed?
You told me to grab a kid. I grabbed the kid. You don't like the way I do it? Then do your own kidnapping. You know what? That's your only freebie. You want me to kidnap anybody else? You paying top dollar.
That's not fair. You grabbed the wrong kid.
Tough titty. My bad. You go ahead and leave. What the fuck you looking all scared for, huh? I said you was free to go, right? Which part of my bad do you not understand? Oh, so now you want to make this a whole big fucking thing, huh? Well, fuck you then!
Oh, okay. Enough, man. Enough.
Nah, man. I'm sick of this shit. I'm trying to squash it, right? And this bitch-ass motherfucker still acting like he hurt and shit. I ain't even touched this motherfucker yet. I ain't even brushed past you yet. I ain't even make eye contact with your punk ass. Yeah, come on over here. I'll give your bitch ass something to cry about.
One of the key aspects of Ed's impact on the Boondocks is how he serves as a vehicle for satire. His character is a direct parody of the wealthy elite who live lives untouched by the struggles of the working class or marginalized groups. Through Ed, the Boondocks effectively lampoons the absurdity of inherited wealth, privilege, and the self-entitled attitudes that often come with them. While his actions are ridiculous on the surface, ranging from dangerous misadventures to childish tantrums, the true genius lies in how they reflect the real-world behaviors of certain members of society who benefit from systemic advantages, often without ever understanding the impact of their actions. In terms of his influence within the Boondocks, Ed Wuncler III's role is central to understanding the show's critique of the socio-political status quo. As a character, he represents the antithesis of the show's protagonist, particularly Huey Freeman, whose radical views challenge systemic oppression. Ed, on the other hand, is a lazy, uninformed product of the very system Huey fights against. This contrast helps to highlight the deep societal divide between those who inherit power and wealth with little effort and those who are forced to fight against the system to survive. The juxtaposition between these characters underscores one of the Boondocks' most significant themes: the impact of wealth, race, and privilege on shaping individual lives and societal outcomes. Ed Wuncler III's comedic absurdity also serves as a method of making difficult societal critiques more palatable. The Boondocks is known for its sharp humor and satirical portrayal of social issues, and Ed as a character exemplifies this approach. His over-the-top antics, such as his attempts to navigate social situations or his frequent involvement in juvenile dangerous escapades, may appear as simple comic relief, but they actually serve as a vehicle for examining deeper questions about social inequity, race, and the normalization of privilege. Ed's behavior isn't just for laughs, it's a reflection of how some segments of society are allowed to act without consequence, and how these behaviors are often overlooked or even celebrated. In the broader context of popular culture, Ed Wuncler III's character has become a recognizable symbol of wealth-driven ignorance. His exaggerated portrayal of privilege has sparked discussions in both comedic and serious forms about how the wealthy and powerful are often shielded from the consequences of their actions. Much like other satirical characters in pop culture who critique social systems, such as characters in The Simpsons or Arrested Development, Ed serves as a distorted mirror reflecting the worst aspects of the class structure. His character is emblematic of how privilege can warp an individual's sense of reality and perpetuate cycles of ignorance, apathy, and detachment from the real-world struggles that others face. In some ways, Ed's legacy in popular culture parallels the rise of wealthy, entitled figures in media and politics who seem to operate outside the bounds of typical societal rules. From reality TV stars to politicians with deep financial ties, Ed Wuncler III represents the caricature of the rich elite whose behavior is simultaneously laughable and frightening. This blend of comedy and critique is what makes Ed's character so impactful. Through him, the Boondocks challenges the audience to laugh at a figure who, while absurd, is also deeply representative of the inequality that underpins real-world societal structures. Ed Wuncler III also plays a significant role in advancing the show's commentary on the intersection of race and class. While the Wuncler family's wealth places them in a position of power, their race plays a key role in their ability to maintain that power. Ed is a white character in a primarily black neighborhood, and this racial dynamic further underscores the ways in which systemic privilege and racial divides intersect. Ed, though often depicted as a buffoon, represents the ways in which race and wealth combine to maintain a hierarchical society where certain individuals are allowed to flourish while others are left to struggle. Ed's impact also speaks to the idea of generational wealth and the legacy of systemic oppression. His character shows how the legacy of wealth and privilege is not just about financial inheritance, it's about the perpetuation of certain attitudes, behaviors, and worldviews. The Wuncler family's dominance is not just about their financial empire, it's about the way they reinforce the notion that power should be inherited and not earned. Ed's relationship with his family highlights how these ideas are passed down through generations, and how those who benefit from such systems often do so without any awareness of how they are actively contributing to societal inequities. Beyond his role within the Boondocks itself, Ed's character has also influenced how we view the portrayal of privileged characters in animated series and television more broadly. Ed Wuncler III serves as a critique of the over-the-top, exaggerated depictions of wealth in animation, much like characters from shows like South Park or Arrested Development. His behavior, though exaggerated, is a critique of how privileged individuals can often act without regard for others, and it has helped to carve out a space for more nuanced discussions about wealth, power, and inequality in animated shows. In conclusion, Ed Wuncler III's legacy within the Boondocks and popular culture at large is that of a satirical figure who serves as both a comedic punchline and a profound commentary on the issues of privilege, wealth, and race. His character exemplifies how the show uses humor and absurdity to shed light on deep societal issues, and how Ed himself is both a product of a larger system and a symbol of its flaws. While he may never experience a truly consequential downfall, his influence on the show's thematic exploration of privilege, power, and the lack of accountability is undeniable. Ed Wuncler III is, at his core, a reflection of the wider cultural dynamics of wealth and privilege that continue to shape the world today, and his legacy in the Boondocks continues to resonate as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked entitlement. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep analysis, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and I'll catch you on the next one.